Chapter 81, Regenerating a Gold-Ranked Heir, Legendary Weapon, Riding Sun Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just as they were discussing the potential marriage between Rennes and the King of Lance, the assembled nobles were stunned. Was the king really planning to give Princess Elsa, his most prized possession, to the Duke of Rennes? It seemed incredibly sudden. However, the savvier nobles quickly grasped the situation. They couldn't help but acknowledge the King of Lance's shrewdness. He was essentially using his young daughter to solidify a relationship with Rennes, the powerful duke who defeated a legendary demon lord. It was pretty blatant, but after their initial grumbling, the nobles were struck by inspiration. If the king could play that game, so could they. If they could forge a marriage alliance with this rising star, the benefits to their families would be immense. Suddenly, they were all mentally sifting through their families, searching for eligible and attractive young women to offer. Rennes had instantly become the hottest commodity in the room. Meanwhile, Rennes had already finalized the marriage details with the king, oblivious to the calculations swirling in the nobles' minds. Since Princess Elsa wouldn't come of age until next year, they agreed on an engagement for now, with the formal wedding to follow a year later. The King of Lance, eager to seal the deal, generously promised to hand over the miniature gold mine, Elsa's dowry. Immediately after the engagement, with the marriage alliance settled, Rennes took his leave. The king's banquet was effectively over. Duke Norman, the supposed guest of honor, was dead, courtesy of the 10th prince. Rennes had no reason to stick around. The kingdom of Lance, eager to cultivate a deeper connection, pressed him to stay, but Rennes was set on leaving, and the king couldn't very well force him. "I've been gone for over a week, it's time to head home." He retrieved his weapon, the storm greatsword, from the rubble and, accompanied by his night guards, began the journey back to Eagle Town. They rode hard, and after more than 10 hours, Rennes and his company arrived at Hab's manor. His wives were in the garden, playing with their children. "Honey, you're back. We missed you so much. Are you tired from the trip? Want a massage?" Janice and the others rushed to greet him, their words tumbling over each other. Rennes felt a surge of warmth at their care and affection, but he wasn't about to let his pregnant wives do any work. He gently refused their offers. After some sweet talk and displays of affection, he asked Janice about the situation at home during his absence. "Nothing much," she replied. "Except Hilda wrote another letter, saying she might be deployed to the border to fight against the Hillock Principality's army." Janice's expression clouded with worry. "Rennes, should we ask her to retire? She's been through so many dangerous situations. I'm afraid that one day." Rennes understood her concern. He also knew how determined Hilda was to become a general. She'd joined the Lion Corps before she even turned 20, enduring hardships and working tirelessly to get where she was. She was so close to achieving her dream. Asking her to give it all up was impossible. He could use his influence to have the king remove her from the Lion Corps, but that would likely earn him her eternal resentment. So, unless absolutely necessary, he wouldn't intervene. "Janice, you have to have faith in our daughter. She's survived so many battles. She'll be safe this time, too." Rennes held his wife close, offering gentle comfort. Children had their own paths to follow. All they could do was offer silent support, providing help when needed, rather than becoming a burden. Once Janice calmed down, Rennes went to each of Flora and the others, placing his hand on their swollen bellies, listening to the tiny heartbeats within, and feeling a deep sense of contentment. Several days later, news of the 10th Prince's rebellion swept across the Kingdom of Lance. However, the story had been spun. There was no mention of a demon lord or Rennes battle against its projection. Instead, it was said that the 10th Prince had attempted to seize the throne, poisoning guests at the royal banquet. When exposed, he detonated the palace's protective magic core, reducing much of it to ruins. The King of Lance was obviously behind the cover-up, consorting with a demon lord. Would be a major scandal. Even if it was only Rogue's personal action, people may not believe it. Creating a distorted story to hide the truth was the only option. Of course, the King of Lance had undoubtedly paid a hefty price to silence the high-ranking nobles. Otherwise, the truth would have surfaced long ago. The news reached Eagle Town, causing great worry for Jenny and the others. "Honey, you weren't poisoned, were you? Why didn't you tell us about such a major event?" Rennes smiled ruefully at their concerns. "I didn't want you to worry. Besides, it was nothing. With my strength, no one in the kingdom of Lance can harm me. Yeah, right. Jenny and the others gave him skeptical looks. No one would believe you even if you told the truth. Rennes threw up his hands in mock helplessness after some light-hearted teasing. The matter was dropped. In the following weeks, Rennes devoted himself to his wives and children, tinkering with his magical arrays in his spare time. Life was peaceful. 2 months flew by. Florina, Katie, Lefa, and Loligia were all heavily pregnant, their deliveries expected within weeks. There was also more good news. Layla, Murphy, and Charlene were expecting again. Jessica and Betty, currently focused on their training, were not pregnant. Thanks to Rennes' efforts, the Habs family was booming. Rennes already had 66 children. When they grew up and started their own families, the third generation of the Habs family would explode. As the head of the family, Rennes would reap the rewards, receiving continuous boosts to his cultivation and growing stronger faster. He eagerly anticipated that day. Another week passed. Florina, Katie, Lefa, and Loligia all went into labor. 2 days later, Katie and Loligia gave birth, adding 2 more to Rennes' brood. These were his 67th and 68th children. Unfortunately, both had only average potential, inheriting no special bloodlines. One was rated bronze level, the other silver. The system only rewarded him with their basic chi cultivation. Rennes was disappointed. 40 years of chi cultivation barely made a dent. Breaking through to higher realms was becoming increasingly difficult. Without the system's help, he might never reach the legendary rank. He estimated that he needed to reach the 15th rank. With his current high-level chi aptitude, he still needed at least 700 years of chi cultivation. With Katie and Loligia's babies being a letdown, Rennes pinned his hopes on Lefa and Furina. 3 days later, Lefa and Furina gave birth as well. 2 cries filled the air as 2 more girls entered the world. Detected the birth of the host's 69th child. This offspring has low magical aptitude, high chi aptitude, and is rated silver level. Reward: 30 years of chi cultivation. Detected the birth of the host's 70th child. This offspring has average magical aptitude, extraordinary chi aptitude, and a hidden bloodline. Elf, awakened, naturally possessing the 3 extraordinary talents of nature listening, plant manipulation, and nature affinity. The evaluation is gold level. Reward: 100 years of chi cultivation, blueprint for the legendary weapon, Sunfire Divine Sword, and advanced magic knowledge level 1. Chapter 82: The Soul of the Ancient Red Dragon, the perfume popular among ladies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This kid of Lefa's silver rank, pretty average. Fleur, on the other hand, gave Rennes a real shock. Another one of her kids is awakened and has elf blood. This one got a gold rank. The system rewards are pretty sweet too. Besides the guaranteed cultivation boost, there's also a blueprint for a legendary weapon, the Sunfire Divine Sword, plus a high-level magic aptitude. The magic aptitude's pretty straightforward. It makes Rennes more attuned to magic and helps him meditate better, once his aptitude levels up. The system will kick in more magic cultivation rewards, and they'll be even better than before. Not bad at all, but that Sunfire Divine Sword blueprint? Now that's something. Everyone knows. Weapons and gear on Roland are rated like this: junk, ordinary, fine, inheritance, epic, and legendary. And then there are artifacts, stuff for the gods. But let's not get into the god tier stuff right now. Basically, legendary weapons are the absolute best a mortal can make. Each one is unbelievably powerful. There are maybe 100 of these weapons total on Roland. A backwater place like the Lance Duchy probably doesn't even have one. That's how rare they are. Rennes didn't get the weapon itself, just the blueprint, but it's still worth a fortune. After all, with the blueprint, all you need are the right materials and a top-notch blacksmith, and you can just keep cranking out legendary weapons. Rennes fought down the excitement and claimed all the rewards. He got 130 years worth of chi cultivation, and it all flowed into him. He could feel the raw power building up inside. Still not enough to hit stage 15, though. Then, the high-level magic aptitude kicked in, and his spiritual power went wild. He started sucking up elemental energy from the air nearly twice as fast. When all the cultivation and aptitude upgrades were done, a stack of paper, made from some kind of high-end monster hide, showed up in front of him. Rennes' face went white. No way, this legendary weapon is going to be way too hard to make according to the blueprint that you need the following for the Sunfire Divine Sword. Main materials: Starfall Iron, Ancient Red Dragon Heart, Ancient Red Dragon Soul. Auxiliary materials: Mithril, Adamantite, Legendary Fire Elemental Gem, Star Sand. Forget the extras for now, those main materials are impossible to get. Starfall Iron. Exactly what it sounds like. The solid remains of stars that fell onto Roland, packed with star energy, and basically indestructible, but it's rarer than hen's teeth. Word is, a gram goes for millions of gold coins, and good luck even finding it. And the ancient red dragon heart and soul. Even worse, we're talking about a red dragon that's lived for tens of thousands of years. For dragons, who are born strong and just keep getting stronger. Age equals power, 10,000 years. That red dragon is basically a demigod, the strongest thing on the main plane. Getting its heart and soul would be mission impossible, and besides the materials, that you need a blacksmith with skills to match. Blacksmiths are ranked like this: apprentice, junior, intermediate, advanced, master, grandmaster. Grandmaster of blacksmithing. You need a grandmaster of blacksmithing to even think about forging this thing, and even then, only a grandmaster has a guaranteed shot at pulling it off. That's how crazy hard this is. Of course, that with that kind of difficulty comes insane power. With this sword in hand, that you're immune to fire damage, and your fire attacks get a 10x to 100x boost, depending on how strong you are. Plus, it comes with meteor showers, city-burning flames, the ability to summon legions of fire elementals, and 6 other legendary, 9th circle, spells that could wipe a city off the map. When it comes to legendary weapons, the Sunfire Divine Sword is top of the line. Great piece of kit. Too bad I'm not ready for it. Rennes shook his head with a wry smile. He couldn't get his hands on the materials or a grandmaster blacksmith. He'd have to wait for the right moment to build this unstoppable weapon. He sighed, then carefully tucked the blueprint away in a hidden vault deep within the family treasury. Time flew by. Another month passed. Nothing major happened. Rennes spent his days taking care of his wife and kids and perfecting the extraction magic array. With his hard work, he got the energy consumption down to 1/10 of what it used to be. Now, extracting a ton of flowers only costs about 150 gold coins worth of magic crystals. That's about as good as it's going to get. After all, Rennes only knows the basics of magic arrays. To lower the energy cost further, he'd need to learn some next-level stuff. He'd have to get some more advanced training. Still, this is good enough, Rennes thought. At the array's current energy consumption, a bottle of perfume would cost around 30 gold coins to make. Still pricey, but it's good enough to sell. After all, he's planning to market this stuff as a luxury item to rich women and noble girls. He figured he could get 100 gold coins a bottle, no problem. With that in mind, Rennes started setting up a ton of extraction arrays and building a perfume factory. And as for perfume recipes, he'd had his most trusted people working on that since the day he invented the extraction array. They already had some pretty good formulas. 2 weeks later, the first batch of perfume was done, 50 bottles total, 3 different scents. Rennes named them Azure Love, Crimson Temptress, and Midnight Jasmine. Azure Love was made with essence of blue roses, light and fresh, perfect for young women. Crimson Temptress used red roses, with a sweet, unforgettable fragrance that lasts forever. Better for more mature women. Midnight Jasmine was unique. Made from black jasmine, a low-level magic plant, it had a mysterious, almost otherworldly fragrance. After trying them out, Janice and a ton of other people loved them. The first 50 bottles sold out immediately. Everyone just grabbed them. Rennes didn't mind. You gotta spoil your wife. She deserved to get first dibs on something this good. He could make more to sell later. 3 days later, before the second batch was even ready, Rennes was surprised to find a ton of noble ladies lining up to buy it. Turns out, Janice and her friends had gone to some fancy tea parties a few days ago. Their amazing perfume had turned a lot of heads. After they tracked down where it came from, perfume became the hottest thing in high society overnight. It didn't need any promotion. In less than a day, the second batch of 100 bottles was gone. They sold for 200 gold coins a bottle, 4 times the cost to make. Seeing how easy it was to make money off those ladies, Rennes ramped up production, with his full support. The perfume business in Habs was booming. It exploded, in less than a month. The number of perfume factories went from 1 to 15, perfume production went way up and the gold coins started rolling in. In just 1 month, Rennes raked in over 100,000 gold coins and it was still going up fast. It was clear that the perfume business was going to be just as profitable as the sugar factories. With all that cash, he could finally get started on the second phase of his development plan. Chapter 83 New Function Family Mall, Engagement Banquet with Princess Aisha. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just as Rennes was expanding the family business and building up their lands, Janice was facing a crisis. She was over 50 years old. Given the typical lifespan on the Roland continent, she probably had, at most, 20 years left, though Janice didn't know the life fruit Rennes gave her had bought her another 30. She didn't want to die, she wanted to be with Rennes forever. That's why Janice felt such a sense of urgency and was pushing herself hard to become stronger. She hoped to extend her life that way. However, because she had so little natural talent, her progress was painfully slow. Even with all the resources Rennes provided, she'd barely reached the level of a 3rd-tier mage. She was nowhere near becoming a 10th-tier grand mage, which could significantly extend her lifespan. When Rennes learned about Janice's worries, he wanted to help. He knew the life fruit he gave her would add 30 years, meaning she should live to be 100, but that still wasn't enough. After all, he had a lifespan of 1,500 years, and barring any unforeseen circumstances, it would only increase. If he wanted Janice to stay with him, there were really only 2 options. One was to find more longevity treasures, the other was to help Janice improve her natural abilities, speed up her training, and constantly increase her strength to live longer. The former was clearly the harder route. He'd only ever gotten a longevity treasure once, as a reward from the system, but the latter wasn't easy either. Janice needed to reach the 10th rank, and her average magical aptitude simply wouldn't cut it. She needed at least a high-level magical aptitude, and rewards like that only came from golden-level offspring. Golden-level offspring were rare enough, and the system's rewards were completely random. Getting a high-level magic aptitude potion seemed like it would take a lot of luck. Tough situation, Rennes thought. He was starting to get a headache. After a lot of thought, he decided to turn to his golden ticket, the family system. Even though it was just an emotionless, artificially intelligent thing, it could still answer his questions. After some inquiries, the system's answer was, open the family store and purchase specific items. A high-level magic aptitude potion could be bought there. Rennes was thrilled. He eagerly asked the family system to open the store. The response, insufficient number of descendants. Unable to open the family store, the excitement drained from Rennes' face. Damn it, what's the point of saying it if I can't open it? He'd gotten his hopes up for nothing. I need more kids, he thought. I need to get to work. He calmed down, sensing that this new family store function was going to be very important, but having children took time. There was no way he'd open the family store anytime soon. For now, Rennes was on his own. Janice's sense of urgency had inspired her to focus on her training. Rennes, of course, supported her, so Janice gradually passed her household responsibilities to the other wives. Jessica and several other women with good magical talent were too busy with their own training to manage the household. Ultimately, the responsibility fell to Layla and Murphy, who had the most experience. These two weren't the most prominent among Rennes' many wives, and they kept a low profile, but they were his second and third wives, married for over 30 years, having lived in the Habsburg family for so long. Managing the family affairs was no problem for them. They quickly got the hang of it and kept things running smoothly. Time passed. Another 2 weeks went by. One day, a palace envoy from the kingdom of Lance arrived in Eagle City. The king ordered them to inform Rennes to come to the capital for an engagement banquet. Months earlier, the king of Lance and Rennes had finalized a marriage alliance, agreeing that Rennes would marry Princess Elsa, but the Lance royal family had been busy dealing with the fallout from the 10 princes' conspiracy to seize the throne, and rebuilding the royal palace. That's why the engagement banquet had been delayed until now. When Rennes received the news, he told his wives. Janice and the others had no objections. They already had so many sisters in the family, one more wouldn't hurt. After saying goodbye to his wives and settling the family affairs, Rennes mounted his warhorse and rode toward the capital, Dibit, with his night guards. The next day, Rennes arrived at the Lance royal palace. Months earlier, the battle between Rennes and the demon lord's projection had turned this place into ruins. After months of hard work, the Lance royal family had rebuilt the palace. It was even more magnificent than before. They built this fast, Rennes thought. Regarding this, Rennes wasn't surprised. This world had extraordinary powers, including architectural magic that could turn mud into stone and stone into mud. Building a palace was easy. The guards at the palace gate, recognizing his identity, quickly went to inform the king. 3 minutes later, King Lance hurried out of the palace to greet Rennes. After some greetings, King Lance smiled and led Rennes into his study. They began to discuss the date for the engagement banquet. A princess's marriage, even just an engagement, couldn't be rushed. They needed to invite royal ministers and nobles to witness it. Given the number of people, it would take at least 10 days to notify everyone. Considering this, and the need to choose an auspicious day, they decided to hold the engagement banquet in 2 weeks. The location, of course, would be the Lance Palace. With the date set, Rennes didn't have to worry about the rest. King Lance, taking this matter seriously, immediately sent people to begin preparations, sending out invitations to the nobles and arranging the venue. Under the organization of the Lance royal family, everything proceeded smoothly. Chapter 84 Princess Aisha #039 S Worship, Another Baby Boom. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 15 days later, the engagement banquet went off without a hitch. King Lance, eager to mend the royal family's tarnished image and win over Rennes, spared no expense. The arrangements were top-notch, bordering on excessive. Morning arrived, and nobles, decked out in their finest clothes, started arriving at the palace in carriages. The place was buzzing. As the day wore on, dignitaries like the Minister of War, the Minister of Finance, and Duke Lair made their appearances. Alongside these heavy hitters were up-and-coming young talents, brought by their elders to get a taste of high society. Before long, the guest list swelled to nearly 1,000, creating a lively atmosphere. At noon, the king took to the podium to deliver a speech, paving the way for the official engagement ceremony. With all eyes on them, Rennes and Princess Elsa, radiant in exquisite attire, emerged from opposite sides of the platform. Rennes was struck dumb when he first saw his bride-to-be. You know, she really lived up to the hype. Princess Elsa, hailed as the duchy's most beautiful woman, was breathtaking. Her delicate features and captivating, deep blue eyes seemed to speak volumes. Her skin was flawless, like polished jade. She was like a perfect porcelain doll, exuding a natural air of nobility. Even with over a dozen beautiful wives at home, Rennes couldn't help but be drawn in. Feeling Rennes' gaze, Princess Elsa, in her pure white gown, blushed slightly. Then, she gave Rennes a warm smile. She knew Rennes was her future husband, and she wanted to make a good first impression, especially because he was young, handsome, and reportedly powerful. Next, with the assembled guests and priests from the Church of Love as witnesses, Rennes and Princess Elsa went through the engagement ritual, step by careful step. Among the guests were the young, talented men who were gnawing on their knuckles, green with envy of Rennes. How could this 70-something geezer with more wives than they could count land the duchy's most gorgeous woman? It was like a rose stuck in a manure pile. Only their self-control kept them from throwing down the gauntlet and fighting for her hand regardless of their internal turmoil. Minutes later, Rennes and Princess Elsa finished the engagement ceremony. They were officially betrothed. For all intents and purposes, they might as well have been married right then and there. Short of Rennes kicking the bucket, everyone considered Princess Elsa his property. After the ceremony, they thanked the guests for coming, and as the sun began to dip below the horizon, the grand engagement banquet wrapped up. As guests began to disperse, Rennes received the deed to a small gold mine from King Lance, but there was a catch. It was located over 3,000 miles away. That meant a serious investment of time and resources if Rennes wanted to set up his own mining operation. So, after giving it some thought, Rennes decided to outsource the operation to King Lance, for a price, of course. He offered 20% of the mine's output as compensation. The king, practically tripping over himself to please Rennes, jumped at the offer. In fact, he insisted on waiving the compensation altogether and mining the gold for Rennes free of charge. With that settled, Rennes decided to stick around the capital city of Dibit for a while. Time to get to know his fiancée, Princess Elsa. Over the next week and a half, Rennes and Princess Elsa hit up all the hot spots in the capital. Their relationship deepened quickly. Princess Elsa was particularly impressed when she learned that Rennes was not only a Sky Knight but also a powerful 9th-rank mage. She looked at him with newfound admiration and respect. Mastering both martial arts and magic to such a high degree was no small feat. Feeling his fiancée's special attention, Rennes felt a swell of satisfaction. Of course, all good things must come to an end. He'd been away from home for almost a month, and Janice and the others were probably worried sick. With a heavy heart, Rennes bid farewell to Princess Elsa and set off with his night guards for his own territory. The next day, Rennes arrived back at Habs Manor, but this time, he didn't receive the same warm welcome as before. Instead, he was met with a chorus of scolding from his wives. "So, Duke Rennes, just how stunning is Princess Elsa? What's it like having the most beautiful woman in the land as your fiancée? You said you'd be back in 2 weeks, tops, but it's been a month. We thought Princess Elsa had cast a spell on you, and you'd forgotten all about us, your neglected wives." Rennes just smiled sheepishly and shook his head at their sarcastic jabs. He knew he was in the doghouse. He had lost all track of time while romancing Princess Elsa. No wonder his wives were jealous and furious. To smooth things over, Rennes showered them with compliments and made a string of promises that finally diffused the situation, though they weren't truly angry. Janet and the others were just reminding him not to forget about his family back home. Life at Habs Manor soon returned to normal. Rennes spent time with his wives, taught his kids, developed his lands, and built up the family business. It was a good life. Before he knew it, 3 months had flown by. Serena, now 10 months pregnant, was going into labor. To prepare for the coming onslaught, Rennes made sure extra delivery rooms were available, building more just in case. A week later, Serena delivered, and she delivered big. 5 boys and 2 girls. Detected the birth of the host's 71st child. The child's magic aptitude is high, the fighting spirit aptitude is high, and the evaluation is silver level. Reward: 30 years of cultivation in fighting spirit, 10 years of cultivation in magic. Detected the birth of the host's 72nd child. The child's magic aptitude is average, the fighting spirit aptitude is low, and the evaluation is bronze level. Reward: 10 years of cultivation in fighting spirit. Detected the birth of the host's 73rd child. The child's magic aptitude is high, the fighting spirit aptitude is average, and the evaluation is silver level. Reward: 30 years of cultivation in fighting spirit, a 4-star technique, wave stacking fighting spirit. Detected the birth of the host's 74th child. The child's magic aptitude is average, the fighting spirit aptitude is average, and the evaluation is bronze level. Reward: 10 years of cultivation in fighting spirit, 10 years of cultivation in magic. Detected the birth of the host's 75th child. The child's magic aptitude is none, the fighting spirit aptitude is high, and the evaluation is silver level. Reward: 30 years of cultivation in fighting spirit, perception attribute *5, 10 years of cultivation in magic. Detected the birth of the host's 76th child. The child's magic aptitude is low, the fighting spirit aptitude is high, and the evaluation is silver level. Reward: 30 years of cultivation in fighting spirit. Detected the birth of the host's 77th child. The child's magic aptitude is average, the fighting spirit aptitude is high, and the evaluation is silver level. Reward: 30 years of cultivation in fighting spirit, a 4-star combat skill, shadow stealth. Chapter 85 Promotion to Great Magician, Family Basic Skills. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Aside from Yimike, Selena's 6 daughters all showed real promise in their training. This baby boom wasn't a surprise, but the quality was definitely there. 5 were evaluated as silver level, 2 as bronze. They brought a total of 170 years of fighting spirit, 11 years of magic cultivation, 5 points of perception, plus a 4-star combat technique and a 4-star cultivation method. After claiming the rewards, Rennes' total fighting spirit increased significantly, but he still needed more to break through. However, his magical abilities took a huge leap. After absorbing those 11 years of magical power, Rennes, already at the limit of 9th rank, finally made the jump the mist-like magic filling his mind began to compress and turn into liquid, forming droplets of potent liquid magic. Once fully liquefied, this magic began to surge through Rennes consciousness. As this happened, the space within Rennes' mind rapidly expanded and impurities in his soul were cleansed away. His soul's strength just kept climbing, it doubled. Tripled. By the end of the breakthrough, Rennes' soul was roughly 10 times stronger. His magical limits and power increased at least 20-fold. He had reached the 10th level, successfully promoted as a magician. Coming back to himself, Rennes felt the difference immediately. His mind was sharper than ever. It was like wiping the grime off a window, revealing the world in all its clarity. Even without meditating, he could easily sense the flow of elemental energy in the air. For a magician who relied on the elements, this was huge. It would dramatically amplify his spells. That alone meant an archmage could easily overpower any magician below level 10. After getting used to his new abilities, Rennes turned his attention to the other two rewards, Shadow Stealth and Wave Stacking Chi. Shadow Stealth allowed him to use shadows to become invisible, leaving no trace. Unless someone was exceptionally perceptive or vastly superior in strength, they wouldn't be able to detect him. A Chi practitioner specializing in shadow energy could take the stealth effect to a whole new level. This combat technique wasn't especially useful for Rennes personally, but for the intelligence organization he was building, Shadow, it was a game changer. With this powerful stealth ability, shadow agents could easily infiltrate enemy territory to gather intel or stir up trouble. Wave Stacking Chi was a 4-star technique. Compared to other Chi techniques of the same level, this one was unremarkable in both quality and power. It was nothing special. Its only advantages were the speed of Chi recovery and how easy it was to learn. Anyone with a normal brain could pick it up. Even someone with weak martial arts talent and poor comprehension could succeed in mastering it. This, folding waves and fighting spirit, could be the perfect foundational technique for future Habu's family members. Rennes thought. The holy dragon fighting spirit he currently used, and the wild dragon fighting spirit he'd used before, were both incredibly difficult to master. He relied on the system to quickly understand and perfect them. Others needed both natural talent and sharp minds to even begin to cultivate them. In fact, only a small number of his descendants had successfully cultivated the furious dragon battle chi. Those with less talent and comprehension were stuck with his initial 2-star technique, Lion Battle Chi, but the beginner-friendly wave-stacking Battle Chi changed everything. He could retire the Lion Battle Chi. As a 4-star technique, even a weak one, it would still be far superior to the 2-star Lion Battle Chi. If he switched everyone with lower aptitude over to this new Battle Chi, they'd all become significantly stronger, boosting the overall power of the Habu's family. To Rennes, this 4-star technique was more valuable than a regular 5-star one. After that, another 2 months went by. During this time, Rennes dedicated himself to studying the 4th circle of arcane arts. With his magical breakthrough, he needed to learn higher-level spells. Otherwise, what was the point? Even though he was a 14th-rank Sky Knight with impressive combat skills, magic wasn't just about destruction. As a synonym for miracles, magic could do so much more. Scouting terrain, summoning creatures from other worlds, controlling people, you name it. Some of the spells in the 4th circle were pretty unique, even improving Rennes' combat skills. Besides studying, Rennes also didn't forget to spend quality time with his wives. Thanks to his tireless efforts, Katie, Leifa, Frenna, Betty, and Lolisia were all pregnant. Jessica, meanwhile, was focused on breaking through to advanced mage, so now wasn't a good time for her. Between taking care of the expecting mothers and studying arcane knowledge, Rennes kept himself busy. Time flew by. Another month had passed in a flash. One day at noon, Rennes held a family banquet with his wives to celebrate Jessica's successful promotion to a 7th-level senior magician. Amidst laughter and cheer, Rennes, with his impressive physique, defeated all 17 of his wives in a drinking contest. He sent them back to their rooms to rest, instructing the maids to look after them. Then, he headed toward the artificial hot spring behind the mansion. He'd just downed several barrels of wine, and while his strong constitution kept him from getting drunk, his mind was a bit hazy. A good soak in the hot spring would clear his head. Lying by the edge of the pool, enjoying the warmth of the water, Rennes felt completely relaxed, but his peace didn't last. After just 10 minutes, the butler, Eben, hurried over. "Lord Rennes, Viscount Igor is here to see you. Take him to the reception room and tell him to wait." "Yes, my lord." Igor was Jessica's father, so Rennes couldn't just brush him off. 5 minutes later, Rennes got dressed and left the hot spring. In the reception room, he found his father-in-law, Igor. Compared to a few years ago, Igor looked even older. He was clearly getting on in years. His time was running out. "Viscount Igor, sorry to keep you waiting." "Not at all." After exchanging pleasantries, Rennes got straight to the point. "Viscount Igor, what brings you here today?" "I have 2 matters to discuss. First, I wanted to thank Duke Rennes for the help you've given to the Ayak family." Igor began. Rennes was confused. Help? When had he helped the Ayak family? "Some time ago, I came to Duke Rennes and asked for a loan of 200,000 gold coins to purchase 50 Gale crossbows, to deal with the rock goblin tribe occupying our family's resource land." Seeing Rennes' blank look, Igor prompted him, then Rennes remembered. That had happened. But it was years ago. "Don't worry about it, Viscount Igor. Didn't you pay for the crossbows eventually?" Rennes waved his hand dismissively. "One thing at a time. The Duke of Rennes allowed me to owe him so much money, and the Ayak family will always remember this kindness." Igor took out a deed from his pocket and handed it to Rennes. "This is a token of our gratitude." Rennes examined the deed. It concerned the medium-sized high-end mine owned by the Ayak family. The deed granted the holder half of the mine's output and profits. It was worth nearly 1,000,000 gold coins. Such a valuable gift had to be more than just gratitude. It probably had something to do with the second matter Igor hadn't mentioned yet. Seeing Rennes' questioning gaze, Igor cut to the chase. "Besides thanking Duke Rennes, I also hope to form a marriage alliance with the Habuz family." Now Rennes understood. This was the dowry for a marriage. "Which of the Habuz children do you have in mind, Viscount Igor?" Rennes asked, taking a sip of tea. "Avery Habuz." Igor answered plainly. He wanted to marry into Rennes' family through his 15th child, Avery. Avery had a medium-level fighting spirit, nothing special. He was studying with his 6th sister, Hilda, and focused on cultivation. However, he wasn't Hilda. He wasn't as hardworking or lucky. Now he was 30 years old, just an ordinary 5th-order knight. Rennes didn't have any objections to Igor's proposal. After all, Avery was 30. He wasn't likely to go far on the path of transcendence. It was time for him to settle down, get married, and contribute to the Habuz family line. Rennes nodded. "I don't object to this, but the decision to form a marriage alliance with the Ayak family ultimately rests with my son." "Of course." Rennes then asked about the girl from the Ayak family. As a parent, he wanted to make sure his son wasn't walking into a trap. When Igor said the girl had medium-level fighting spirit, was beautiful, and had a gentle personality, Rennes nodded approvingly. If it was true, she sounded like a good match for his son. They discussed and arranged a time for the two to meet. Igor left with a smile. Chapter 86, Natural Disaster of the Undead, Redwood City in Danger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After sending Ilgo on his way, Rennes told his wives what was happening. Janice was thrilled. Avery was her son. After all, she'd been so worried watching him get older, still unmarried, with his head only in cultivation. She was afraid he'd end up lonely. If Rennes hadn't insisted on respecting Avery's wishes, she would have strong-armed him into marrying someone years ago. So, hearing that the Yake family had proposed a marriage alliance, she was over the moon. Soon after, Avery found out. "What? The Yake family wants to marry into our family?" And Dad agreed. "I'm supposed to meet the girl soon." Avery, who just finished his daily cultivation, was stunned. What the heck? This was way too sudden, and he didn't want to get married. Women would just slow down his training, but he didn't dare argue with his father. Rennes' authority was no joke, pure bloodline dominance. Still, Avery really didn't want to get married. He had to find a way out. he'd go to his mother, Janice, and hope she could talk his father down. No luck. When Janice heard that Avery was still trying to weasel out of it, she blew a gasket. She laid into him, then flat out ordered him to get married and start a family this year if he didn't like the Yake girl. He could find someone else, but getting married was non-negotiable. If he didn't, she'd cut off his cultivation resources. Seeing his mother's firm stance, Avery gave up the idea of staying single. He'd go along with it. Truthfully, he wasn't completely against marriage, it was just that he'd been single so long, he didn't want to change. A few days later, Viscount Ergo arrived with his entourage. The Yake girl was named Angel. Just like Ilgo had said, she was a sweetheart, not drop-dead gorgeous, but with an innocent, girl-next-door vibe. She was gentle and understanding, and a level 3 magic archer herself. After talking and spending some time together, Avery was pleasantly surprised, and Angel seemed to like Avery too. They hit it off. Seeing this, Rennes decided to announce their engagement right then and there. A month later, Avery and Angel got married. 3 months after that, Angel was pregnant. In about 10 months, the Habs family would have a new baby, and it wasn't just Avery and Angel. Several of the other wives were also expecting. Rennes was overjoyed to see the family's third generation growing. The more grandkids he had, the more rewards he'd get in his cultivation. Another 3 months passed. Rennes was busy and fulfilled, thanks to the huge profits from the perfume business. The second phase of his territory's construction plan was underway, that included building roads to improve cargo transport. The project was moving along, and the main roads between towns should be finished in about 6 months. That would greatly improve the flow of goods between the towns. The Habsburg territory would take another leap forward, but Rennes' happiness didn't last. He got bad news that night. There was trouble in Redwood City. That evening, a thick, grayish-black fog had appeared deep in the redwood forest around Redwood City. Thousands of undead emerged and attacked the workers at the logging camp. Hundreds were killed. Now Redwood City was surrounded by an army of undead. Where did all these undead come from? Rennes couldn't believe it. The redwood forest near Redwood City wasn't exactly a hotbed of negative energy. How could so many undead appear there? Something was definitely fishy. Could it be undead mages? Rennes' heart sank. If so, they were in trouble. Someone who could control that many undead had to be a level 13 lich or higher. If he didn't stop him fast, this would turn into a full-blown undead disaster. Rennes knew he had to act. He decided to handle this personally. After saying goodbye to his wives, Rennes led a night guard of several hundred intermediate knights toward Redwood City. While Rennes was rushing to reinforce the city, things were dire in Redwood City. Tens of thousands of undead were attacking the walls. These undead skeleton soldiers had no feelings and no fear of death. Even if they were missing limbs, they'd keep crawling and attacking. Unless their heads were destroyed, their sheer numbers made it a nightmare. In less than half an hour, the soldiers defending Redwood City's walls had suffered heavy losses from the tide of skeleton soldiers. Morale was collapsing. The defense was starting to crumble. Hold the line. No deserting. Don't let the undead take the walls. The reserve team moved to the east wall. Now, Bernier, the lord of Redwood City, was desperate. He sent his personal guards to act as a supervisory team, killing soldiers who tried to flee. At the same time, he sent the reserve team to reinforce the weakest point in the defense. That bought them some time, but Bernier wasn't relieved. He knew Redwood City's forces couldn't hold off an undead army of tens of thousands. Even if the soldiers fought hard, they could only delay the inevitable. The only way to truly solve this was for reinforcements from his father to arrive soon. If they were late, Redwood City was doomed. Everyone would die. Chapter 87. Destroy the army of the undead and go to the lair of the undead. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Under Bernier's command, the Cedar City soldiers fought bravely against the enemy. But the tide quickly turned in favor of the undead. Skeleton mages in the undead army were using necromancy to raise legions of skeletons, creating a kind of skeletal barricade outside the walls. These bone slopes allowed skeleton warriors and knights to charge right up the city walls. The pressure on the defenses was relentless, and the soldiers were taking heavy losses. How long ago did we send for reinforcements? Bernier asked his steward, his voice tight with anxiety. When can we expect my father? Seeing the dwindling number of soldiers on the wall, he couldn't help but press the issue. The steward, not daring to be casual, replied immediately, I sent a rider with the request before Cedar City was completely surrounded. Lord Rennes should have received the message by now and be on his way. If they're pushing hard, they should be here in about 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Bernier's face brightened at the news. Even though the defenses were crumbling, he still had the Lord's Manor Guard, his elite troops, in reserve. If they could take over, holding for 10 minutes should be manageable. Reinforcements were coming. He quickly donned his armor and led the elite warriors of the Lord's Manor into the thick of the fighting, taking on the skeleton warriors swarming the walls. Being Rennes' son wasn't the only reason he was a lord. Bernier was intelligent and strong, possessing impressive magical talent. Rennes had carefully cultivated his skills since childhood, and Bernier was already a powerful sixth-order mage, fireballs, exploding fireballs. He unleashed a barrage of destructive fire magic, wiping out hordes of undead on the slopes. The city lord's guard, dozens of seasoned third-tier warriors, took care of any stragglers. The undead on the eastern wall were quickly neutralized, followed by the south, west, and north. Long live the city lord! The soldiers cheered, their morale soaring as they watched their leader's power. They redoubled their efforts, cutting down the endless stream of skeleton warriors trying to scale the walls. 7 minutes passed, and the wall's defenses seemed stable. Bernier felt they could hold out when the commander of the undead army, a high-level vampire named Rad, decided to get involved. The vampire transformed into a swarm of bats, a living dark cloud descending on the city walls. They began to feed on the soldiers, draining their blood. The screams echoed as, in less than a minute, over 100 soldiers on the west wall were reduced to desiccated corpses. With no one to stop them, masses of skeleton warriors surged over the west wall, heading toward the other sections. Damn it! Bernier's expression changed, and he led his elite soldiers toward the breach, trying to shore up the crumbling defense, but it was useless. Having feasted on the soldiers of the west wall, the vampire turned its attention to the soldiers on the north wall. Seeing the dark cloud of bats overhead, the soldiers panicked and scattered. The defense completely collapsed. The situation was rapidly deteriorating. In less than 2 minutes, Cedar City would fall and become an undead paradise. Just as despair began to set in, a golden light, radiating holy energy, streaked across the sky. Within seconds, it was above Cedar City. Everyone could now see what the golden light was, a winged unicorn warhorse. A rider sat upon its back, Rennes himself. I had no idea things were this bad. Rennes said. Thank goodness I rode the holy light Pegasus ahead. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a living soul left in Cedar City. Seeing the undead occupying the walls and surging toward Cedar City, Rennes drew the storm greatsword from his waist and swung it in the air. Countless holy sword auras, radiating pure light, sliced through the air. Everything they touched, skeleton warriors, skeleton mages, even powerful vampires, dissolved into nothingness. In the blink of an eye, the undead on the walls were gone. 2 more strikes of the sword, and the entire undead army, the force that had almost destroyed Cedar City, was wiped out. It was as if they'd never been there. Am I dreaming? The soldiers muttered, unable to process what they'd just witnessed. They stared at Rennes as if he were a god. After resolving the crisis, Rennes landed on the wall, astride the holy light warhorse. Father. Bernier was the first to greet him, wanting to apologize. As city lord, he had failed to defend the city. Had Rennes not arrived in time, Cedar City would have become a prison for the dead. It's not your fault, Rennes said, waving off the apology. Bernier had done well, sending for help and leading the defense. The breach was unavoidable. The city's forces could never have held off tens of thousands of undead. He had done all he could. Leaving that aside, Rennes inquired about the origin of the undead. Bernier didn't know much. They had appeared suddenly, leaving no time for investigation. The only confirmed information was that they had originated in a deep valley northwest of Cedar Forest, according to lumberjacks who had managed to escape. That must be the source. Knowing the origin of the undead, Rennes decided to investigate. He wouldn't allow such a volatile threat to exist within his territory. The undead had to be eradicated. After a few minutes, the night guards arrived and took over the city's defense, ensuring the safety of Cedar City. Rennes, alone, mounted his holy light Pegasus and flew toward the depths of Cedar Forest. Chapter 88 Holy Light Shines the World, the Plane Rift Leading to the Undead Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Redwood Forest wasn't far from Redwood City, less than 10 kilometers as the crow flies. Mounted on the Holy Light Pegasus, they flew straight there. 3 minutes later, Rennes and the others were at the edge of the Redwood Forest. As soon as they entered, Rennes felt an unnatural quiet. Besides the wind rustling through the leaves, there wasn't a sound. Clearly, most of the forest's creatures had already been devoured by the undead. After all, the undead were driven to attack the living. Humans, animals, anything alive was a target. That's why they were called enemies of life. This forest is crawling with undead, Rennes said, assessing the situation. To wipe out a forest's wildlife this quickly would take at least 100,000 undead. Realizing this, Rennes was even more determined to eliminate them. If these undead roamed freely in his territory, it would be a disaster. Without hesitation, Rennes spurred the Holy Light Pegasus deeper into the forest, as if sensing living aura. The undead creatures wandering the Redwood Forest swarmed towards Rennes, like sharks smelling blood. Skeleton warriors, skeleton champions, zombies, ghosts, easily over 1,000 of them. Despite the terrifying sight, Rennes remained calm. He didn't even consider getting involved. These undead were too weak, none above level 10. He couldn't be bothered. He'd let the Holy Light Pegasus handle it. Hiss! The Holy Light Pegasus neighed, and a 3-meter-wide golden sphere materialized above its horn. Like a miniature sun, it pulsed with intense holy light, innate magic, holy light radiance. Roar! 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 Ah! Howls and cries of anguish erupted. Under the divine light, the undead creatures were eaten away, dissolving as if splashed with acid. The lowest level skeleton warriors crumbled to dust in a second. 3 seconds later, the skeleton warriors and zombies evaporated completely. 5 seconds later, even the more advanced ghosts vanished into nothingness. In less than 10 seconds, thousands of undead creatures had been utterly annihilated. Job done. The Holy Light Pegasus continued onward, carrying Rennes northwest through the Redwood Forest, eliminating any undead they encountered. A little over an hour later, Rennes found the deep valley the lumberjacks had mentioned. Now, the nameless valley was shrouded in a gray-black mist, with eerie dark green flames flickering in the air. It looked like a scene out of a horror movie, and it felt oppressive. "This is the undead's lair," Rennes said, certain he'd found the right place. The negative energy here was almost tangible. An ordinary person would turn into a living dead within minutes due to the concentration of negative energy. He activated the Holy Dragon Chi, forming a protective barrier to ward off the negative energy. At the same time, he activated the Golden Dragon Eye to pierce the obscuring black mist. With preparations complete, Rennes rode the Holy Light Pegasus into the valley. Deeper into the valley they went. The stronger the undead creatures became, black knights, spectral wolves, wailing banshees. These higher-level undead ranged from level 10 to level 12. The Holy Light Pegasus couldn't kill them in a single blast. Rennes had to step in. After killing dozens of higher-level undead, Rennes finally reached the end of the deep valley, but instead of an undead mage, he found a 3-meter-long, 5-meter-wide dark green spatial rift. Tangible negative energy poured from the rift. Undead creatures emerged one by one. This was the source of the undead plague. Interdimensional rift. Rennes gasped. This was a dimensional channel connecting different planes. Creatures from other worlds could reach the Roland world through these rifts. The rift before him connected to the undead realm. This was a huge problem. If it couldn't be closed or sealed, undead creatures would keep pouring out. It could even become a beachhead for an undead invasion of the Roland continent. Rennes' territory would be ground zero. This interdimensional rift must be destroyed. Rennes made his decision. As he observed the situation, the Death Knight guarding the rift noticed the uninvited guest. Ha! 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 Someone's here. Kill him! The Death Knight roared in the undead tongue. The Death Knight, mounted on a nightmare warhorse, raised his giant sword and pointed it at Rennes. In the next second, hundreds of high-level undead creatures attacked Rennes, soul wailing. Curse of Death. Spear of the Grim Reaper. So many high-level undead skills coming at him at once, even legendary powerhouses wouldn't dare take that head-on. Rennes didn't hesitate, he activated the golden scale armor for defense, a layer of divine energy materialized out of thin air, enveloping his body. This was an innate ability from the golden dragon bloodline. Once activated, it reduced physical and magical damage by at least 50% and made him immune to curses, weakness, instant death, and other negative statuses. It was the bane of dark and undead skills. With the golden scale armor holding against the onslaught, Rennes counterattacked without hesitation. He manipulated the holy dragon chi, infusing it into the storm greatsword in his hand and the holy light Pegasus beneath him. The greatsword burst into holy flames. Rhythm. With an excited neigh, the holy light Pegasus surged forward, exceeding its limits, carrying Rennes, who had become a streak of light. It charged into the ranks of the high-level undead. Arcane Knight skill, Death Charge. Before the high-level undead could react, Rennes slammed into them. Sizzle. 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 Unmatched speed, coupled with the great sword blazing with intense holy flames, turned Rennes into the Grim Reaper. He cut a devastating path through the undead. The charge killed 1/3 of the high-level undead. Ignoring the survivors, Rennes rode the holy light Pegasus towards the dimensional rift. That was the key. If he could destroy the channel connecting the Roland continent and the undead plane, this undead plague would be eradicated. Chapter 89. Conquer the Death Knights and open new functions of the system. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ha. 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 Undead language, lowly human, you're asking for it. The Death Knight guarding the dimensional rift couldn't stand idly by. The ghostly blue flames that served as eyes under his helmet blazed. He spurred his nightmare warhorse and charged straight at Rennes. Seeing their leader move, the 20 terrifying knights beside him followed close behind, their warhorses thundering into the charge. A 14th rank Death Knight and 20 11th rank knights launched a coordinated assault. The entire valley shook. Rubble rained down from the cliffs. The force of their charge was like 1,000 soldiers, and even legendary figures would step aside. Good. Come on. Facing the overwhelming charge, Rennes, a knight himself, felt a surge of excitement. He didn't flinch or try to dodge, he chose to meet them head-on. Unscathed and fierce. Rennes' aura intensified. He cast the 4th circle arcane spell, True Mirror. This spell could summon a true mirror image with the same strength as himself, or 2 mirror images with half his strength. More images meant a shorter duration. Instantly, Rennes' figure multiplied into 3. Rennes charged at the front, supported by 2 mirror images on either side, forming a triangular arrowhead. Rennes and his doubles unleashed the Death Charge skill directly into the Undead Knight Legion. Though smaller in number, their charge was no less powerful, perhaps even more so. 3 seconds later, Rennes collided with the Undead Knights in a deafening crash. Boom. In the next second, an explosively violent shockwave erupted, obliterating everything in its path. The valley was flattened, the dark gray mist vanished. Any high-level undead creatures near the impact point were instantly annihilated. When the dust settled, Rennes and the Undead Knights emerged. The fight seemed evenly matched. However, thanks to the damage reduction from his golden scale armor, Rennes was only lightly injured and still ready to fight. The Undead Knights weren't so lucky. The fires of their souls flickered weakly, indicating severe damage from the collision. Looks like I won that round. As the 2 energy-depleted mirror images faded, Rennes smiled faintly. The Death Knight's soul fire flickered, but he didn't respond. He ignored the temporarily incapacitated Undead Knights. Rennes immediately turned to destroy the source of the Undead Cataclysm, but the dimensional rift was gone. The shockwave from the collision had stabilized the surrounding space. The unstable rift had collapsed and dissipated. Well, that saves me some trouble. Rennes refocused on the Death Knight and his Undead Knights. Honestly, he didn't really want to kill them. He'd seen firsthand how powerful they were. If he could subdue them, the Habsburg family would gain a top-tier legion, greatly increasing their strength. The more he considered it, the more tempted he became. Without hesitation, Rennes used the arcane spell to enslave the undead. He began to extract the essence imprints from the soul fires of the Undead Knights. This was the key to their life and death. Controlling the soul's essence meant controlling the undead. Perhaps the previous battle had weakened them, or perhaps Rennes' own soul strength was overwhelming. but the enslavement spell worked smoothly. 10 minutes later, Rennes successfully enslaved the 20 terrifying knights, but the 14th level Death Knight, being a more advanced undead creature, was much harder to enslave. He possessed incredible resistance. Even with Rennes' powerful soul, he couldn't completely subdue the Death Knight's soul fire. Rennes couldn't afford to be reckless. The Death Knight could self-destruct his soul when Rennes tried to extract the essence imprints, that would severely damage Rennes' own soul. For half an hour, Rennes relentlessly drained the Death Knight's soul power. "I'll submit. But you must set me free after you die. If you don't agree, I'd rather destroy my soul and fall into eternal sleep than submit." Feeling his soul weakening, the Death Knight communicated his terms telepathically. Rennes naturally understood the Death Knight's hidden motive. Humans have short lifespans, even legendary figures only live 1,000 years at most, but undead, especially higher undead, can live for tens of thousands of years. Thanks to their lack of physical limitations and vigorous soul fires, the Death Knight planned to outlive Rennes, in his eyes, serving and pledging loyalty for at most 1,000 years. In exchange for tens of thousands of years of life was a bargain. After considering it, Rennes agreed. He had a golden finger, and he believed he would become an immortal god someday. For him, the condition was meaningless. After signing the magical contract, the Death Knight cooperated. He condensed his soul's origin mark and handed it to Rennes. From then on, Rennes completely controlled the Undead Knight Legion. Their life and death were in his hands. At the moment he successfully subdued the Legion, the system displayed a series of messages, detected that the host controls more than 3 forces, and the family population meets the requirements. Activating the new function of the family system. Ding. Activation successful. Congratulations, the host has unlocked a new function, subsidiary forces, and a special reward system gift package. Chapter 90, System Gift Pack. 7-star combat technique, sword judgment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. New system features. Rennes stared at the system info, surprised. He hadn't expected this. Conquering the Undead Knight Order had unlocked new system functionality and earned him a sweet system gift. Instead of ripping open the gift right away, Rennes decided to check out the new function first. Instantly, a screen popped up in front of him, visible only to him. Affiliated forces. Number 4, name, Shadow Organization, details, Habsburg Family Knight Order, details, Sharkman Tribe, details, Death Knight Order, details. Using his mind, Rennes clicked on the details for one of the groups. The text on the screen shifted. Force, Death Knight Order, member race, Undead, official members, 21, organization headquarters, none, organization funds, $0, organization assets, none, combat power, 5 stars, maximum is 12 stars, control, 90%. Damn, the system info was thorough. It covered everything from headcount to headquarters, even down to the last penny. Most of it was self-explanatory, but the 5-star combat power and 90% control threw him for a loop. He clicked the question mark next to combat power with his mind. A box appeared. Combat power, 1 star, capable of killing 100 ordinary people, 0.2 stars, capable of killing 100 low-level knights, 0.3 stars, capable of killing 100 mid-level knights, 0.4 stars, capable of killing 100 high-level knights, 0.5 stars, capable of killing 100 earth knights. So that's what 5-star combat power means. Yeah, that tracks. Rennes got it. He'd seen the Undead Knight Corps in action. Even with some losses, they could totally wipe out 100 Earth Knights. Now that he understood the combat power scale, Rennes clicked on control level, his expression serious. Control level, 0% to 30%. Your orders are like whispers in the wind to this force. They'll do whatever they want. 30% to 60%. A few individuals in this force will obey your orders. 0.60%, 80%. Most of this force will follow your instructions. 0.80%, 90%. Everyone in this force will obey your orders and support your decisions. 0.90%, 100%. Everyone in this force will be willing to sacrifice themselves for you. Even if it means certain death, they will execute your orders immediately. This feature is awesome. Rennes nodded, pleased. Managing a large team was always a headache. This let him see his influence over everyone at a glance. It would help him avoid getting backstabbed or having people pretend to listen while doing their own thing. It was a real power management tool. I can't believe my control over the Undead Knight Corps is already at 90%. He was surprised to have that much sway so quickly, but then, it made sense. Undead didn't have physical needs, so they had fewer desires and less complex thoughts than humans. Mostly, they just wanted to kill or get stronger. And now, he controlled their souls. He could snuff out their soul fire with a thought, killing them for good. In that situation, the Death Knights would naturally follow any order that didn't involve dying. Of course, control could change, according to the system, like with the Death Knight order. If something happened that made them lose their will to live, or if they started hating Rennes more than they feared death, his control would drop. Still, that was unlikely. Once it hit 60%, it was hard to fall below that without major disruptions, and 80% was even more stable. At 90%, it was practically locked in. If it reached 100%, it would never change. After figuring out how control worked, Rennes pulled up the stats for the other three groups. Shadow Organization Control, 78%, Habsburg Family Knight Order Control, 83%, Sharkman Tribe Control, 81%. Only 78% control over the Shadow Organization. Looks like some people are ignoring me. Rennes' eyes narrowed, flashing with coldness. Please give me flowers. When he got back to Eagle City, he'd have to reorganize the Shadow Organization. You couldn't mess around with intelligence. A leak could expose Habsburg's secrets. He made a mental note. Then, Rennes led the Death Knight order to hunt down stray undead in the Redwood forest. Undead were sensitive to others like them and with their overwhelming strength. Rennes cleared out all the undead in the Redwood forest before dawn. With that done, Rennes was ready to head home, but first, he needed a place for the Death Knight order to hang out. Bringing them home was out of the question. Living beings feared and hated undead. It would cause a panic in his territory. The free people might even freak out and run. It was better to hide the Death Knight order and use them as backup. Rennes stared at a map of his territory, and finally chose a high mountain far from any settlements as their new base. The Death Knights got the message, climbed onto their nightmare steeds, and vanished in a flash. Dawn was breaking. After setting up the Death Knight order, Rennes hopped on his holy light Pegasus, rode home in the morning light, and took a long, hot bath. When he got back to Habs Manor, he was about to nap when he remembered the system gift he hadn't opened yet. Suddenly, he was wide awake. This was the first time he'd gotten anything like this. He was curious what was inside. Open the system gift. Ding! Gift opened successfully. Congratulations! You received High-Level Cultivation Aptitude Potion *1, Advanced Potential Recovery Potion *1, Advanced Building, Family Training Ground, 7-Star Battle Technique, Holy Sword Judgment. This system gift was the real deal. Rennes wasn't disappointed. It was full of rewards that only gold-level heirs could get. He'd basically gotten 3 gold-level heir rewards for free.